Hello, everyone. Welcome to Interstellar Chats. This is your host, Carlene Selg, and I'm here with co-hosts Kristen Anderson and James Spurrier. Welcome, wonderful cosmic friends. Thank you for joining us in the conversation. Today, we are talking about hollow Earth. So in the last episode, we talked about flat Earth, and now we're going to flip that on its head and talk about hollow Earth and what that means. And let's just kick it off. James, tell me something. Tell me.
Well, I've heard that, when you think about hollow Earth, you just think, oh, well, it's just hollow this way. And I've heard it's a little bit more honeycombed, like there's pockets of, vast spaces in hollow Earth. But the first time I ever experienced anything about the idea of hollow Earth was watching Journey to the Center of the Earth. And I loved that movie. And the reason I loved that movie was because of all of the beautiful crystals that they found in, inner Earth.
I have not actually seen that movie.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
It is fun.
Yeah, you should watch it.
Journey to the Center of the Earth. I'm going to write it down.
Then the awakening back into hollow Earth happened probably more with Corey Good and him describing his interactions with beings that lived in hollow Earth.
Mm-hmm. So to be clear,
pardon me?
I was going to say, explain that. Like what happened with Corey Good? Explain that to us.
Well, he was enlisted in a program called 20 and Back. And as a young person, he was basically abducted and enlisted into a military program where he had to serve out 20 years in a program. And then they say 20 and back. Well, so then he got put back into his timeline. So he served his years and then was put back into his timeline. But he
was time regressed, correct? He was age regressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's the one that talks about having contact with these beings from inner Earth, the Anchar, and the Anchar also were related with. It's all part of Law of One, actually, because of the blue avian aliens that supposedly works with the Egyptians, but anyways, he says that like a big a sphere would show up in his room and he would be taken to inner Earth and have these interactions with these beings. And it all sounds,
believable,
far-fetched, but it also rang true to me, right? Too.
Far-fetched yet believable. And there is so much more. So let's just make a quick clarification with Corey Good and with his story. He was recently accused of making it all up and that it was fake and this kind of thing. And he was under oath in a deposition where he basically said it was all made up and that it was his intellectual property and all that kind of stuff. He was making a comic book series or something like that, which whether that's true or not is really just him protecting his information. So
I want to just clarify just a little bit. He didn't say that it was all made up. He said that it was his intellectual information.
Yes, he did say that.
And so there's a difference between saying it was all made up and because I could see how legally he would need to say that to protect his rights and his
life. To protect his life.
Yes.
Yes.
Basically. But on that same thread of thinking, there are other people who also have experiences with inner earth or hollow earth, as you're calling it too, right? Those are two interchangeable terms, inner earth and hollow earth, right?
Yes.
Is that how you think it? Okay, so I also follow a few people that are in the interstellar, intergalactic type realms and have YouTube channels and podcasts. And Dr. Michael Salla regularly communicates with a soldier named JP. And JP has had secret missions or involved with the secret space program where he is taken on these classified missions to inner earth. And he has personally been given, and this is just recently within like the last couple of years, where he's been given clearance, military clearance from his his superiors to release and disclose this information. So this information has to do with beings who live in inner earth, but also the fact that there is a whole network of places, of cities, of travel roads, all these things that are under the earth or inside the earth. And also the things that are buried or so-called buried, like the arcs that are supposedly being activated right now to be shown to humanity, that there are things here, ancient things that are about to be disclosed to us. And hopefully that happens within the next year or so. That would be fantastic to know that, yes, inner earth is absolutely a real thing. And one of the beings, there are many beings that live in inner earth, but one of them is the ant species.
People.
Yeah, right. So the ant people, they are alien beings and they look like ants, but they stand as tall as a man, right? So they are.
And so I have never actually heard the description of their appearance necessarily looking like an ant, but I have heard that they were called the ant people because of how they lived and created the honeycomb of tunneling system. But maybe they do look like ants too. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard that they look like ants, that they literally have antennae and stuff like that. So
wow,
very interesting. But I also want to say that there are different places that I come across that seem as though it is an entrance or an entryway into inner earth. And a lot of times these are in trees.
Yes.
Right? Hollowed out parts of trees. What do you think, James?
Well, I believe that's correct. And the reason I was getting your attention is because it was sparking my memory of my dream that I had visiting inner earth. And in my dream, I was being led in a mountainous terrain kind of area by an old man, an old Asian man, and a very young Asian boy. And they were leading me, and we got inside this vast cavern, and there was, as I'm looking at the wall, I realized that there's just this huge dragon. As I'm looking at the wall, I'm like, oh gosh, that's not rock, that's a being, and it's a huge dragon, and it was alive. I saw its eye, and it let me pass, and I had to pass the dragon to get into inner earth. And so I got through, and as I go on down, there's like just fields, and then I see fences, and I'm walking around, and I go up to one of the fenced areas, and there are all of these bunny rabbits in this fenced area, except they were like the size of hogs. They were enormous, like huge hog, but they were bunny rabbits. And then I went inside this building, and it seemed like the job in there, they were engineering animal life. And I saw there was a monkey being that was tiger striped. And I saw I actually saw like insects and weird slug type things as well. It was just a really interesting dream that I woke up.
Yeah. So what I think is interesting too is these dreams that we have, because I have a very good friend of mine growing up, and she would have the most outrageous, or at least I thought they were outrageous dreams, just almost like yours, James, that are so detailed and have so much texture to them. But when I was a kid, I was like, wow, where is your mind, right? Because she would have these just outrageously detailed dreams. And one of her dreams was about the ant people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we're like, we're 12, 13, 14 years old, and she's telling me about her dream with the ant people. And now we're hearing these real stories of military personnel having interaction with ant people.
Interesting.
And one of the things, or one of the stories, or one of the aspects that JP, this military soldier, was able to disclose was that people who were abducted or kidnapped, or even homeless people, or people who have felt like they don't have purpose or meaning or belong, would be basically presented with an opportunity to go into inner earth and not be on the surface anymore. So a lot of people who maybe have disappeared have gone into inner earth.
That's interesting.
Right? So I wonder if my friend had an experience where she was in inner earth, met with these ant people, and then maybe was able to come back. I don't know. Or maybe it was another lifetime. I don't know. But isn't that interesting?
Yes, very, very interesting.
And I have another friend who just recently, we were talking about this because I brought up the fact that there's this amazing tree in the park behind my house that has this opening. And I talked about this in a previous episode that has this, we were talking about portals and or entryways into different dimensions. And inner earth is essentially another dimension, right?
Yes.
So because the people that live there are interdimensional, multidimensional. So when we talked about, my friend and I, when we talked about this opening to inner earth, because we both felt the energy around this tree, around this opening, and I'll drop a photo in the show notes to show people which tree what I'm talking about. But we decided we would try to go there energetically, like leave during the night and go there, just see what would happen, right? I never felt like I could get there for some reason. Like I'm very, very, very multidimensional and can go places and do things, astral travel, what have you. But I never actually was able to get to this tree. However, my friend did. And when she did, she was, well, first of all, let me back up a second, because she also went to this tree during the day and gave it some offerings. So like 4 or 5 different crystals she put at the entrance of this tree or this opening in the tree. And the next day, she didn't try to go the next day, but she did go back and just kind of checked and noticed that some of those crystals were gone.
Oh, wow.
And it's not necessarily like someone's just going to happenstance come across this tree and be like, oh, wow, I just found a cache of crystals, and pick up the crystals. It just, they weren't that exposed and they weren't that large, right? They were just little crystals placed on the ground next to this tree, random tree or what have you. But it definitely, when I show you the picture, you're going to see, oh my gosh, that is absolutely a doorway into another dimension, right? So when she did actually try, she wasn't asleep. She was actually, in a meditative state and was physically thrown back onto her bed, like physically thrown onto her bed and told, now is not the time.
Wow.
Yeah, because she was trying, and she's very good. She's been in Inner Earth before and told me of a vision she had of the two of us in Mount Shasta, like in Mount Shasta. But this is just right here in Florida. This is, you know, where I live in St. Petersburg, and there is this tree, and she was trying to go into this specific space and was not allowed in, physically thrown back and told, now is not the time.
Interesting. That reminds me of the story of one of my friends that I will just brush over because, of course, it's her story to tell. But she was swimming in one of the lava pools in Hawaii. And she said she was just floating and just really easily slipped into a deep meditation. And this being came up from underneath her, and they had a communication, and she kind of dove down, and the being was pulling her down. Like, she said it was so magical and so beautiful, and she was just following them down until
She needed to breathe.
you know, she decided to come back, but she said she almost didn't come back.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, how did you breathe? Like but she is a water person herself, and we call her a mermaid.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you hear the stuff that she does, it's kind of wild. She went swimming the other night at midnight under the full moon in the ocean in the Pacific at midnight in the dark.
Wow.
By herself, just swam out like a mile. She's crazy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the Pacific is not an easy ocean to swim in. So
It's deep and it's cold and it's dark. And it was midnight.
and yeah, rough. The current is rough.
Yeah, but like that's her
Waves are
happy
rough.
place. So the fact that this being, you know, and she kind of likened it to a mermaid, you know, with a tail but human.
Oh.
That kind of pulled her down. And that's another theory about the innards of Earth that has like vast amount of water and ocean under in the center of Earth. So it's very possible that you know, there's some sort of mermaid type being down there. And I just want to add this too. All of the movies, all of the science fiction, right? I'm a big movie buff, but all of these science fiction movies are sort of like little telltales to things that are actually real. Like people have experienced this, right? So my friend has experienced a siren, right? That's what they call the mermaids that kind of pull you down into the depths. It's, you know, kind of a fantastic story of sailors getting taken down by mermaids and pulled under the ocean, enticed. Not they don't pull them, but they kind of mesmerize them into doing.
They're lost. They're lost in the moment.
Yeah, they get mesmerized by the beauty and they just go
it
down.
feels so good. Like your friend just felt so peaceful and at ease and like, oh, I'm going, you know?
Yeah.
I wonder what triggered her to come back.
To wake up. Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to get her on here and I'm sure she would love that.
Yes, I would love that. We'd have to interview her.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and the other thing with just the trees that makes me think of a number of movies. The Nightmare Before Christmas, though, have you seen that stop motion animation?
Yes.
It's called The Nightmare Before Christmas, but literally he goes into the woods, into a circle of trees, and each door of each tree takes you to a different world.
Yes.
Yeah. So while there's a lot of fantasy, because those worlds were, well, one is Easter world with the big bunnies, right?
Oh my
One is
gosh,
Christmas, one is Thanksgiving. So there's like the fantasy part mixed with the truth. or possibility of a truth.
That's
I had-
awesome.
I had a dream once where my regular spot in Austin, I would for breakfast, I'd always go to Now's and get a breakfast taco and sit there and listen to the waitress ladies gossip and
I
a
love
good time. But I dreamt that I was at Now's and I went in to use the restroom and I noticed that they had an elevator. I'm like, how does this place have an elevator? So I go inside the elevator and the elevator took me to another Now's. And we were at this point where like, this is the square. And now I'm like in between floors. So I can see this reality, which is the same reality, and this reality, which is the same reality, but different.
Wow.
And I got off, and as I got off, I realized that I needed to get back on the correct reality that I had got off at, so it was a very interesting.
Funny.
Well, I think what's really interesting about what you just said, James, is the whole elevator aspect, right? Because JP talks about an elevator, and I've heard other people who have gone into, some didn't necessarily call it inner earth, but just underground bunkers or underground cities or underground facilities. And they've used an elevator, and some are going down like 40 floors, like really a lot of depth to get to where they're going.
Yes. Yeah, cool.
Interesting,
That's
right?
interesting because that's also one of the large themes in many science fiction movies is like the secret labs, and they're always like 40, 50 floors down.
Yeah, what are they creating?
Yeah. That's where they're doing all the hidden secret stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
and when you're going to different dimensions or different timelines or using a portal, it seems as though you're using a doorway or an elevator or something that is traveling or taking you into another place. So that's very cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very cool.
So what do you think, beautiful audience? Do you have any experience with inner earth or hollow earth? If you do, we would love to hear what you have to say. If you will have some, make some comments for us, and we will read them, we will answer them, and we will hopefully get some of these amazing people that we're talking about to come on for an interview. Yes, Kristen?
I'm raising my hand. So this is just, if we combine the theory of hollow earth with the theory of flat earth, maybe we're just, we're crossing the portal into the other
dimensions.
side. Yeah, almost like a black hole.
Well, you're blowing up. More things to talk about on Interstellar. Okay, well, thank you again. Please click the like button, subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, listen to us on all the podcast outlets, and we will see you here next time on Interstellar Chats. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.